Hey there, welcome to another Reach Daily Devotional. I'm really excited to be sharing with you this morning, and yeah, really privileged to be doing so. Just before this devotional, you might want to pause the video and have a listen to the worship song for today. So the link to that will be in the description. Great. This morning I'm just going to read from Exodus 16, starting to read at verse 11. This is in the NIV translation. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumblings of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening, quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, What is this? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take an omer, which is possibly about 1.4 kilograms, I'm told, in this Bible. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some gathered little. And when they measured it by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. I love that. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, No one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. Isn't that such a human response to this? I can see myself doing that quite easily. Get this incredible gift of bread, and actually the tendency is to hoard it, to preserve it, to plan into the future, to know that a week from now I'm going to have provision. But this is a story about God's daily bread, God providing for our immediate needs, not necessarily giving us the full route into the future, not giving us the full map to our ultimate destination. And I think that's a really challenging passage for me personally. I went into this year with many plans about how this year might go, and I'm sure, like everyone, those plans, our plans that we've made are being disrupted, are being undone in many ways. And we live, in the West, in a culture of planning. Many people will have each hour planned out, mapped out in their life. And their diaries, their Google diaries, their physical diaries will be filled with appointments and meetings and places to be, people to see. And actually, through this time, all of those appointments and plans have gradually been emptied. And there's this space, there's this margin that doesn't normally exist. And that can be a challenge. And it's been a challenge for me personally going into this year with all these plans that have gradually become much more uncertain. I'm finding more and more that I have to really depend on God for the here and now. What is God saying to me in this moment? What is God saying to me today? What is He saying to me about the people who are immediately around me? My community, my flatmates, my family who I can maybe encourage, my friends from university or further afield who maybe I can send an encouraging message to. But uncertainty is scary. And uncertainty creates some negative tendencies, I think, in us. I was reading an article actually in the New Statesman. This was end of April, 28th of April 2020, and it's called "Why a True Exit Strategy from the Coronavirus Lockdown is Not Possible." And the first line of this article is, I think, just so it completely captures the moment that we're in. And the first line is this: demands for a predictable future will lead to even more frustration. The only honest course is to acknowledge the degree of uncertainty. The Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, were having to depend on God's provision, depend on what Jesus would later call our daily bread. They weren't given the map out of the desert. They weren't given a sense of, this is how long you're going to be in here for, this is how long this season is going to last for. They had to learn, and it was a lesson, it was a slow lesson that they had to learn, to listen to God's voice, to respond to what God had given them in that moment, and to find blessing in that. And then at the end of this chapter, we read this incredible thing, which I just want to end with, because I think there's a lesson in it for me, and there's maybe a lesson in it for us. So this is verse 31. The people of Israel called the bread manna. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey. It sounds delicious, actually. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Take an omer of manna and keep it for the generations to come, so that they can see the bread I gave you to eat in the wilderness when I brought you out of Egypt." They take an omer of manna as a remembrance of what God has done for the generations to come. Not to preserve it, not to hoard it, just one omer, as a symbolic act of remembrance. And I wonder whether in this time, as we are facing so much uncertainty, as so much is unclear and unmapped, whether there's something in actually reflecting on our lives and reflecting on the times in our lives when God has provided our daily bread, when God has opened doors for us when they needed to be opened. And then taking those experiences which are real and show the character of God, and applying it to our present, applying it to our massive uncertainty and the fear that can easily spiral out of that. Bless you all, and I hope you have a good day today. And I really hope that today you will see God's provision in your life.